Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Accountability Board meeting for September. It's lovely to be here in Southend. Business Park. I think they previously funded that project as well, so lovely to be here. Welcome to everybody this morning. If I could just go through our normal introductions. Welcome to you all. We'll go around in a moment and just have introductions, including one of our virtual attendees as well. So if I can ask, if we start around taking Laura, can you start introductions, please?
So I'm Lauren Edwards. I'm the portfolio holder for economic and social regeneration at
Roger Goff, leader, Kent Capitalist.
Kevin Bentley, leader, Essex. Simon Cook, the vice chair of CELA.
I'm Philip Black, program manager.
I'm Michael Newman, head of finance, Essex County Council, representing the accountable body section on the money.
Andrew Jeffries, leader of Borough. The leader of East Sussex. On Lamb, the portfolio of statutory services.
I'm prepared to manage enterprise secretary.
Thank you. For the benefit of those who are watching this recording or watching this online, to your right, I think as you're looking at it, and your left, there's two members of the group you won't be able to see on camera, but you might be able to hear. That's Abby, who's just introduced herself from Councillors. We've got microphones, so we've tested that sound is good. So if you wish to speak, just raise your hand, please, just to get my attention. When we are voting, just make sure that we're clear in our acknowledgement, either of notes or agreements, please. Raise your hand if you can, that would be helpful. We don't have any members of the public that announced they're going to be joining the meeting today, but you know that there will be some members of the public join this meeting. Officers are listening into the discussion both in person and virtually, and a recording of the meeting will be available via the CELEP website as usual after the meeting has concluded. We have had a few issues with sound in previous recordings, so if I could ask everybody to speak as clearly and loudly as they can, that would be really helpful for anybody who's watching the recording at a later stage. For those of you that are attending virtually, if you please not use the chat function on Zoom, as it won't be monitored during the meeting. But if at any point there are any technical issues for those of you attending virtually, just remain on call and we'll get that issue resolved as quickly as possible. There are no confidential items to discuss during the meeting. So I think it's just for apologies, Helen.
Yes, so we have apologies from Council Fox, who is represented by Councillor Lamb.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, Councillor Lamb. If I could take the minutes of the last meeting on the 16th of June, can you confirm those as a correct record, please? Thank you. Thank you very much. And are there any declarations of interest around the room? Very much. I don't think we've received any public questions, have we? No public questions today.
They get the Etihad, where they'll be given a blue and white scarf, a poster of Jack Grealish, and a copy of the song containing the three chants that cities.
Gary, we've got you, but we can hear everything you're saying, so if you mind muting yourself, please. Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Okay, before we start with the operations update, I just wanted to just remind everybody, I'm sure we're all aware of this already anyway. We have 3 accountability board meetings after this one left until the end of March that's scheduled in our diaries. We've got a number of high-risk projects, many of which we'll look at today. There are 12 in total, totaling just under £53 million. Many of which we'll look at today. Many of the recommendations are for us to look at them again either in November or January. So, as everybody knows, there is little time left before the end of March for us to review what is a significant amount of money still. So I just want to make that point when we're going through our various different items on the agenda next on. Operations update. Helen, by the way, welcome to your first meeting officially as the Chief Executive. And if you could take us through the operations update, please.
Yes, of course. So I'll just pick out some highlights of it really. So around the LEP transition was following the strategic board decision in July to integrate, work towards integrating LEP functions into the upper tier authorities by the end of March 2024. Since then, the LEP has been working really closely with officers, senior officers in the local authorities to share sort of details and information around all of those functions and to very much discuss and agree options for future operations within the local authorities. To do this, we created 5 work streams covering our 4 areas of work. They were governance and capital programmes, growth hub and business support, partnerships and networks, data and intelligence, and resourcing. So we began that process at the beginning of August, and over 5 weeks now, we've held 11 work stream meetings with involvement at different levels from over some 50 officers. So we've had extremely strong engagement in that piece of work. And that kind of coincided with receiving the actual letter and technical guidance from the government. On reviewing that guidance, I think it's fair to say it wasn't as detailed as we had hoped for. So it raised a number of questions and clarifications that we have since submitted to the department to try and get some further guidance and understanding of some of the issues. They're set out in the table for you, but they're largely around the ongoing monitoring and evaluation of capital programmes and the accountable body functions going forward. The requirements and funding for growth hubs from next year, and around the ongoing requirements around the assurance framework, because the guidance mentions about a reasonable point before transition. And as we know, the assurance framework needs to remain in place, and we need to understand from government what that reasonable point looks like, and we need to ensure our compliance with that. So we've covered an awful lot of ground and made a lot of progress in the transition so far. We have a draft transition plan that will go to our strategic board next month. And this works to set out sort of the tasks, the timelines, as well as some of the risks and sort of dependencies that exist around the transition. I think probably the greatest of those being further clarity that we need from government on certain aspects of this. We are expecting additional guidance from government in January. They stated that in the guidance we received in August, but it's unknown whether we'll hear about any more specific set of queries anytime sooner, or whether it will be included in that guidance that might come into the new year. So that does present quite a risk and dependency on our work. So that's probably the headlines of the transition. Just in terms of looking at risk overall, we obviously have updated the risk register, and that includes those associated with the transition and the integration work. I think probably headlines around that are kind of managing the ongoing sort of effective assurance processes that we have in place, and then one particularly obviously around team secretariat in terms of sort of workload and retention staff through this transition period over the coming months. So there probably are highlights, but we will keep that risk register, very closely monitored and continually updated. Probably the last point in my report to highlight is around this board and the nomination of Abby Kemp from Vice Chancellor to the University, and Thomas Wolfenden, who is from the University of Sussex, who have been nominated as joint higher education reps to. That's
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. Are there any questions? Okay, so we've got 4 things to note and 5 things to note, 1 thing to agree. I'm going to take 1 to agree first, just as Abby's here, and we might get that first. Can we agree to appoint Abby and Tom in shared roles on the voting board members of the Accountability Board on the nomination for higher education? Agree. Great, thank you very much. Welcome Abby formally to our board meeting. Welcome Tom, join us next time. So we've got the other things to note. We note the update on decisions taken by the strategic board for the transition of the LEP and the integration of its activities into local authorities. Thank you. Can we note the summary of and reflection on the government guidance for transfer of LEP functions to local authorities? Thank you. We know the updated risk register in line with the decisions taken by the board and government guidance. Thank you very much. Can we note the update on the assurance framework compliance at section 7 of the report? Thank you. And finally, can we note the update on governance KPIs and Very much. Morna, finance update.
Hey everybody, but the moment I'm Lord Morris, what Preston Council, I support this role as the accountable body for SELEC, which involves supporting and monitoring the financials for the partnership. So the finance update today sets out the recommendations to approve a proposed updated revenue budget for LEP for the current financial year. The board originally approved the current year budget in November 22. At that time, there's been several changes that have been incorporated into the updated budget set out in the report. Primary change is the incorporation of 2 government grants that were only deferred back in July and therefore weren't planned for in the budget that was originally set. First grant is for £250,000 for funding, was allocated by DLUP to support delivery. This represents a further annual reduction to support funding allocated to LEPs compared to 22-23, but provides an improvement on the budget position that the budget was set originally on the assumption that no funding would be received. In allocating the core funding, the government confirms that this should be the final year funding for the LEP. As the expectation is that the functions transferred to local authorities from April next year, as referenced by Helen in the previous slide. The second grant was the Growth Hub grant, which supports delivery of the growth hubs across the region, and as such, the majority of this funding is transferred to Kent, Sussex, and Essex county councils to provide business support to the locally established growth hubs. Funding for that grant has only been awarded for 23-24, which is, as has been previously, only been an annual year allocation. So this service itself remains at risk beyond March 24 until the future funding allocations are confirmed, should they be confirmed. Arrangements in this respect to be considered as part of the transition planning that had been referenced in their report. And as well, ongoing with local authorities, how those processes can be supported ongoing should funding actually continue beyond the current financial year. Other than the grant changes, the Senate budget has also been updated to reflect the latest forecast spend for 23-24, including reduced staffing budgets, some staff being team and which haven't been replaced. But there has, however, been a partial compensating increase in consultancy and project spend, where we may need to bring in additional third-party support to support the team in their delivery of the year. In total, the proposed budget is setting out a net expenditure of £650,000 for 23-24, which is planned to be funded from the Select Operation Reserve. This withdrawal will leave just over £1 million uncommitted reserve to support the transition arrangements and any necessary individual credit costs in 24-25. As set out in the report, some funding is expected to be required to support the accountable body 24-25 to finalise any residual obligations or legacy activities of the LEP. These costs are still to be estimated, but are currently expected to be managed within the wider earmark reserve set out in the report. Once these plans are clearer, with respect to the future arrangements, a decision will be brought back to this board to agree the allocation of this funding. In summary, the proposed revenue budget is viewed to be robust and sufficient to meet the planned expenditure for 23-24. This position will, however, be carefully monitored, and any updates will to future meetings be appropriate to provide assurance in this respect, and to update on proposals for the residual revenue funding for future services. As referenced in the report, in addition to the revenue funding, the capital body also holds the contingent capital funds in relation to the Getting Building Fund and the Growing Places Fund. As will be updated on later items in the report, a process is underway to allocate the residual just over £2 million of Getting Building Fund in the current financial year, and decision will be brought back in the January board meeting to allocate those funds, which remain the capital transfer to the local authorities so that funding is being to. In addition, the Growing Places Fund, we're expecting some funding to be allocated out this year, but also a fairly significant amount to be returned, as obviously this is a cyclical loan fund. And so, assuming all those repayments and payments are received as expected by the 31st of March, the balance on at that fund at that point will be 14.9 million. The Select Strategic Board are due to consider the proposed approach for allocation of that GPO funding at their October meeting. However, the final award of funds, alongside the consideration of the residual loans that sit out with partners currently, will be determined at a future meeting of this board. During the remainder of this financial year, the council body will continue to require oversight and management of these funds and will support Select and local partners to ensure that decisions to the reward are effected in accordance with the principles of Select Assurance Framework and development funding agreements. So I wanted to say, and I'd like happy to take any questions.
Dawn, thank you very much. Any questions, comments?
Councillor, yeah, thank you, Chairman. For some of these actual recyclable loan schemes, gave them a lot of them different schemes on the number of other authorities, because doubtful whether they will get the actual repayment scheme. So therefore, just wonder, we are going to ensure these are paid, and not just written. I think it's important that having started it, otherwise we could have found a lot of other could have gone for this and said, well, that's why they did anyway. And that's not it. Borrow the money, why did these the scheme that have gone on? It's only right that that money still that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so of the loans that have been paid out by Select, we've actually had a really good repayment rate to date. And Helen will come in a later item. Obviously, those loans that are still outstanding, that the planned repayments are actively monitored. I think there is one repayment at the moment flagged as an annual risk, so that will need to be viewed. Obviously, any decisions with respect to non-repayment or changes to profiles of repayment have to be agreed by us.
So if there are no other questions or comments, we've got things to want to approve, want to note. Can we approve the proposed 23-24 budget, updated revenue budget set out in table 1, including the updated drawdown from the employee reserve to fund the plans and expenditure? Thank you. And can we note the update funding risks and reserves set out in section 3.10? Yes. Thank you. Item number 7.
Yes. So this report provides the usual update on the Growing Places Fund programme, including an update on project delivery outlists to impact the programme. Cash flow position shows that Essex County Council, as a council body, is funding the 9.6 million GPF, which is not currently allocated to projects. As we all know, has just recognized options for the use of this funding for after March will be presented to strategic board next month. Repayments totaling 5.3 million are expected in 23-24. And to help with performing report strategic board, I did see early confirmation regarding the ongoing achievability of these repayments from various parties. All projects have confirmed that remain on track to make their stated repayment, other than the Solomon Harbour project, where there is a potential repayment risk, which is currently being monitored. So primarily, this report sets out an update on the grant between commercial development projects. Project seeks to deliver a new GP surgery, light industrial workspace, and office accommodation in Bexley. Project was awarded 1.75 million GPF, subject to receipt planning consent in February 2021. Essex County Council will continue to hold this funding at the current time. An update on the project has been provided, which confirms that planning consent has now been granted. However, the project team is struggling with increasing costs due to rising inflation COVID-19 pandemic. This has prompted a re-tendering exercise and a review of the project budget. It is also likely that the scope of the project will need to be revisited to ensure that it still meets using demand following changes in working pattern following the pandemic. It is also likely that due to the delivery of the project, a revised payment schedule will need to be brought forward for full consideration. These changes will need to be considered through a project change request process. And it will need to be demonstrated that the project continues to offer high value for money. In light of the change to the project, the accountable body are unable to release the funding to East Sussex Council until these changes have been considered by the board. Given the impending dissolution of SELEP, it has been necessary to provide tight timelines for vision for changing based on proposed funding papers. The information will need to be presented to the board in January. There is to be sufficient time to provide legal processes to be completed and funding released to the Sussex Council prior to the end of March. That's obviously assuming change on refund. It is recommended if the required information is not brought for consideration in January, or if the changes are not agreed by the board, the project is automatically moved to the GPA.
So, any comments or questions?
Just a comment, I mean, thank you very much for the very good introduction, and I think the recommendation is absolutely clear. We don't come to this one January with a project that's still in the pool, the money is gone. Very clear message for everybody there to get that going, and I'm hoping to the
That's very positive.
That's a question about the so for instance, will it be the next thing you have would be all the out in future?
That is part of what is being considered to feed into those stations and plan, but as part of that, we are considering future big makers and how they will plan. That would be useful.
It's not my question, just following up the question, just following on. Increase of city,
That depends on the option chosen by the strategic but most likely it's.
that's just one second. My actual question, was just looking at the team on various between the statements. Are they actual statements or as we currently? Are all projects finished? On the actual statements. Pieces. On GDF, it's full of the team.
Will you take it?
Oh, I think one of them.
Different things.
Say that. I want to hit you. Just that question.
That's
Oh,
fine,
that question.
that's fine.
Sorry, I'm from the head of page. I think, but it will be a question.
Remember that one. It's
It's
This is one change in population, that's it.
Yes, most likely. This is all still true, so we're hoping for some clearer questions on that, so.
I think it's a mixture of us putting forward the options for the strategic board to improve, and that would there are different answers and avenues in response to that, but we also have some questions into them about sort of funding in general and what we want our clients would be of local authorities under those under that transfer. So we yet to have an answer. So we've got two sort of parallel.
Good. We've got two things to two recommendations then. So can we first know the updated position on the GPF programme? And secondly, agree that a project update change request over revised payment schedule for the Varmore Green Commercial Development Project should be presented at the Accountability Board meeting of the January. Noting that if this requires the apply proposal is not agreed by the board, project will be automatically moved to GPF. Very much. Okay, item number 8, GPF.
So, this report provides usual update on the activity fund programme, including update on those projects which have received approval for potential GBF funding beyond March 2022, and update on the GBF definition. Report sets out the 22-23 year-end spend position for GBF programme. This demonstrates that 15.5 million was spent in 22-23, which leaves an unspent balance just under 10 million. As has already been mentioned, just over 2 million of this funding is currently projects and we're going through prioritisation at the moment for that. At the last meeting, full spend of the 7.9 million GBF allocated to projects was forecast to be achieved by the 30th of June. However, quarterly reporting submissions from local departments only demonstrated spend of 1.8 million in Q1, with the remaining spend forecast from Q2 and Q3. It should be noted that quarterly reporting was not received from Thurrock Council in advance of this meeting. However, full spend against Thurrock projects had previously been reported, and therefore is considered figures presented in the report are an accurate position. A risk in relation to spending additional funding awarded in January to find projects in Essex was raised in last meeting. This was due to ongoing council government processes which delay the release of funding. These processes were ultimately completed in July 2023, and therefore it wasn't possible for Essex County Council to respond up to local authority to release the funding prior to the end of June. However, full spend of the GBF funding was evidenced to Essex County Council in advance of the 30th of June, and therefore it's not considered necessary for formal approval of potential GBF funding beyond June being sought in this report. However, the board are asked to consider requests from 3 projects to retain their GBF funding at this meeting. The first is no use empty South Essex. At the last meeting, it was confirmed that GBF funding was fully allocated to 6 no use empty loans. It was hoped that all loans would be completed prior to the 30th of June. Unfortunately, the final by reporting on complex ultimately didn't manage to complete until the 28th of July. Consequently, the formal approval to retain the GBF funding against the project for a period of 3 months is sought. Obviously, given that the project has now completed, there is no risk associated with granting the requested extension. The second project is the Australia LEP Phase 3 project. This project is progressing well, but full spend for GBF funding will be achieved by the 30th of June. It has been confirmed that full spending for GBF funding has been achieved, but again, like many circumstances, the formal approval to retain GBF funding against the project for 3 months is required. Again, there are no risks associated with this. Final project under consideration at this meeting is the Better Queensland project. The board has received regular updates on the project since late 2021, when the involvement of Swan Housing and a joint venture partner became concerned. It was confirmed in February 2023 that Swan Housing becomes a subsidiary of Sanctuary Housing Association. Since then, Sanctuary has been completing due diligence in regard to all information received from Swan Housing, and this includes consideration of the unfortunately, Sanctuary Housing Association have now indicated their intentions for the Better Queensland project. South End City Council will remain committed to delivering the project and are now simultaneously working with Sanctuary to facilitate the next steps of the legal partnerships that are to deliver the project and working to develop alternative delivery models. A number of potential delivery models are summarised within the report. The work is ongoing to develop these models with a view to presenting reporting with South End City Cabinet in October. There is an outstanding requirement for South End City Council to provide assurances regarding the ongoing delivery of the wider experience. And therefore, this report recommends that South End City Council are allowed sufficient time to fully assess the options and progress through their governance processes prior to bringing forward those assurances. So it's recommended that the assurances and an update on the total delivery are considered in January, allowing a definitive decision on the ongoing status of GBF funding to be taken. Should South End City Council be unable to progress the development of these projects in accordance with the agreed business mix, the board may be asked to consider seeking fallback of the GBF funding. It is also noted in the report that whilst full spending for GBF funding allocation has been evidenced by South End City Council continue to fund funding. And therefore, The approval is being sought to retain the GBF funding against the project until January, whilst Southend undertake a review of potential delivery. It should be noted that the project doesn't meet the criteria previously agreed by the board for projects seeking potentially GBF funding. However, the board reminded to allow Southend to see City Council further time to develop alternative delivery models. GBF funding will need to be retained. There are clearly risks associated with this, however, a further full update on the project will be provided at the January board meeting, which still allows money for funding to be reallocated to alternative projects, should the project no longer get forward. And finally, just note the GBF program risk register has been reviewed and the new risks associated with the impending dissolution center, the ongoing management of the GBF program. It is expected that this risk will be mitigated through ongoing discussions with the Senate, the council body.
Thank you. Councillor Bennett.
Yes,
Somebody else?
Apologies, I was gone on to the next page three.
It's okay.
For you to the question asked a few minutes ago, which was the actual, it follows on last apologies, said, in the table at 4.50, which one variance, is that actual or is that ongoing?
That is just a variance in relation to what the school bus is still required against the project.
Yes, yeah.
Questions, comments, councillor Lamb?
Carrying on what we said, I think she's very good. And so, we work very hard. I've got the idea of what you see, and we still want to see. Someone say. Well.
Are there any other questions? So we've got 6 recommendations here. We can go through each of these. Firstly, can you note the current forecast spend across the GBF programme for 23-24 of 7.979 million, set out in table 2. Secondly, can we agree that GBF spend on project delivery in 22-23 totaling 15.508 million set out in table 1? Agree. Thank you. Thirdly, note the update on the Better Queensway project at section 6 of the report. Thank you. Fourthly, can we agree that the full update on the Better Queensway project will provide information on the chosen delivery route and associated delivery timetables, the status of GBF funding, which contains the required assurances regarding ongoing delivery of the wider project, would be provided at January 24 audit. And GBF funding application obtained against the Better Queensway project for a maximum period of 7 months. Great, thank you. Can we agree that the GBF funding allocation can be retained against the following projects for the maximum period of 3 months? With no use empty South Essex, we say that N phase 3.
Sorry to John, changes. Sorry, issues and John, you will need to time. And I was referencing it is a phenomenal. And I wondered whether not just report we actually have a presentation. So I wondered, we've had such a change in personnel practice table, we may not know the importance of the board. Particularly the changes have been asked wondered whether you Joey must try to keep up a presentation.
Yeah, and what we take it, the first place, you take it, and obviously, children, for that. On the phone, and it's unfortunate, because it's not. There's all sorts of problems going on. Now we've lost the swamp. We've been trying to get another kind of people.
The reason I asked for, sorry, the reason I asked for it is because you read the report and read the report and you've seen it, you see some presentation stuff, understand it.
No, I agree. I think it's really important and it will be helpful. With only 3 meetings left, it will be focused on process and procedure. It's also important for us to get colour and flavour because many of the projects are so much wider impact, so individually collect.
I think this is a major one. People don't.
This is good.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you.
Excuse me, Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt. We've had some comments that the sound quality isn't very good. So can I ask if everyone pretends they're on stage and we project our voices very eloquently? I'm going to double check if I can turn the aircon down, which might help acoustics as well. So I'm sorry.
That's not a bad idea.
I'm going to dash across the camera. So if, I'm sorry to interrupt, I wouldn't normally.
That's great. That's great.
But if that's okay, at this stage of the meeting, so I'm going to do a dash.
Speech your fruit.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks
I wish you had said go on stage.
Yeah.
Yes. Can I just go back and take the last recommendation then for item 8? Can we note the deliverability and risk assessment set out in appendix C? Thank you very much. Okay, item number 9, Helen, we're taking us through item 9 again.
Yes, so this report provides the usual update on the local profile programme, including an updated risk assessment for project. As the board are aware, the LGF programme officially ended on the 31st of March 2021, but there are a number of ongoing projects which continue. The report identifies 11 projects which are currently considered to be high risk. Updates on 6 of these projects will be considered over the course of the next few agenda items, while brief updates on the other 5 set out in the report. The A289 4 hours roundabout to Medway Tunnel project in Medway had previously been identified as high risk due to the delivery of the works being dependent upon the Housing Infrastructure Fund funding, which was awarded to Medway Council to support a wider scheme on the ministry. There was a risk that if the planned LGF scheme was not delivered using HIP funding, the LGF spend would become abortive revenue spend and would therefore no longer meet the LGF grant conditions. At the last meeting, the board were advised by Council Edwards that there was a risk that the HIP funding could be removed from the project by Homes England and DLUC, primarily due to there not being current local planning place. It was confirmed on the 10th of July that the final decision had been taken to stop the HIP project and remove the funding allocated to it. It is therefore necessary for the board to consider the status of the 1.8 million LGF which has been spent on developing the project. Medway Council remain committed to delivering improvements in food and will continue to work with all key stakeholders to develop alternative solutions. An ongoing need for highway improvement works detailed in the LGF business case has been confirmed in order to address capacity and air quality issues. These works are required regardless of whether the wider planned HIP scheme comes forward. In addition, Medway Council confirmed that work is progressing to develop a new local plan with Regulation 18 consultation commencing this week. Medway Council are actively exploring alternative funding sources following the removal of the HIP funding. Homes England have committed to supporting Medway Council in their efforts to secure funding. Potential Section 106 contributions which could be applied to the LGF works have been identified, but further funding is required. As the HIP funding has now been removed from the project, the return of the LGF funding could be sought at this meeting. However, given Medway Council's ongoing commitment to delivering the project and the steps that have already been taken to address the challenge of not having current local plan in place and secure alternative funding, it is recommended that the funding remains allocated to the project at this time. In light of the impending dissolution of SELEC, it is important that the project is subject to further consideration by the board and a definitive decision on the ongoing status of the funding is taken prior to the 31st of March. To this end, it is recommended that a further update on the project is brought to the January 2024 board meeting. And so the report also sets out the current LGF spend position and provides 22-23 year-end spend position. LGF spend in 22-23 is reported to total 12.447 million, excluding DFT retained schemes, increasing to 12.6 million, including DFT retained schemes. This spend is significantly lower than was forecast at the start of the financial year. This is due to a number of factors, including ongoing COVID-19 and Brexit impacts on project delivery. It should be noted that as with the GBF, quarterly reporting was not received from Thurrock Council in advance of this meeting. However, given that all but one Thurrock project has reported full spend of their LGF funding prior to 2022-23, and the other project is currently on hold, so it is therefore believed that the figures previously reported remain accurate. It is currently forecast that 9.1 million will be spent in 23-24, with the remaining balance of 39 million forecast from 24-25 onwards. And finally, just to note that the LGF programme risk register has been reviewed, and a new risk associated with the intended dissolution of SELEP and the ongoing management of the LGF programme has been added. It's expected that this risk will be mitigated through ongoing discussions between SELEP, the accountable body, and local department authorities, and will be supported by a series of decisions taken by this board, which seek to ensure the status of each of the identified high-risk projects and any other ongoing projects is clear, and which confirm expectations for future delivery of any ongoing projects.
Any comments or questions? Councillor Goff?
A couple of things. I'm very sympathetic to the proposal in terms of rolling over to January on the Medway project for reasons which I think have been set out. So now I think for that, as a bit of a theme, I think for many of the other projects we've got, that needs to be a hard deadline. But equally, actually, for the other projects we've got here, including, just to be entirely clear, we've got one in Kent. So I think all of us have got to be quite clear on that. Can I clarify actually what are we on some of these other projects? I mean, for instance, it mentions in relation to Grays South that there will be a full update at the next board meeting. So for some of these projects which are still high risk, what will be the purpose of that update at the November meeting, isn't it? And I'm not just thinking, I'm taking Grays South as an example.
Yeah.
But,
So obviously we are looking to reach a point where we have a clear position on all of the high-risk projects.
exactly.
Grays South, as standalone, obviously there's a review ongoing, which we need to understand, which I'm sure Councillor Jeffries can update on. But yes, we are. Every high-risk project that's coming forward, we are looking to reach a point, and if there are any outstanding decisions, that will be presented as soon as possible. If it's not possible for them to be presented in November, we will be aiming to file as many of the projects as possible in January.
Okay, because I think it's important that we do as much as we can on that, because otherwise we run the risk that we head into the new year and run out of time.
Yeah, I think also the point of making some difficult decisions sooner rather than later gives
Exactly.
the best chance of making sure that any money that does need to go back in can go back out into projects that will be waiting. So,
Just to
Councillor Bates, I'll take you first, and Councillor Jeffries, you want to go into rating?
just to agree with Councillor Goffman, you know, it is unfortunate that these things are not as far forward as we want to be, but actually I think the January board is the cut-off date that we all need to clearly have in our mind. So, you know, I just think it's an early warning. It's only good coming back in January with further mitigation. If we all understand that today, we all know what we've got to do before now in January.
Yeah, we've got, I think we have of the 12 high risk projects, we have 5 of them coming to our board meeting in November.
Yeah.
And I think at the moment there are 3 coming to our meeting in January. So the bulk of those will be in our next meeting in November, which just gives us a fairly early chance, doesn't it? I think. So as long as we are clear on that, I think that's
But my point, I mean, if I may just clarify my point about the hard deadline in January, the specific related to what we're saying about Medway, where we can have, you know, hard deadlines for November as well. I think that would be, you know, for when those particular projects go forward.
no, great. Councillor Jeffries.
Yeah, it's just to give the board reassurance that the informal cabinet has met and has made decisions. The formal decision will be taken in due course. My confidence will be able to come to the next board meeting with a direction for the project.
Thank you.
So it comes back to our original point, understanding who carries the risk, where the risk goes once set up no longer exists. I think that's very important. Just I'm not talking about that, I'm talking generally across the piece. We all understand who's carrying the risk once set up is no longer.
Yeah, and I think for those of you who are also CLEP board members, I think this is where it's helpful for us to carry this conversation to what will also be only a few CLEP boards left to make some of those hard decisions as well. So I know colleagues around the room, authorities are committed to a smooth transition as best as possible. Which makes it sound like a Brexit conversation, doesn't it?
That's it, it's not my back.
I just wanted to weave that into the conversation. Somebody's going to give me £1.50 to do. There we go. Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on this particular report? Okay, we've got 4 recommendations then. Can we firstly agree that the LGS spend in 22-23 total 12.4 million, excluding DFT retained schemes, and 12.6 including the DFT retained schemes, as set out in table 1 and appendix A of the report? Secondly, can we agree the updated total planned LGF spend on project delivery of 23-24 of 9 million, excluding DFT retained schemes, increasing to 9.1, including the DFT retained schemes as set out in table 2 and appendix A of the report?
Agreed.
Thirdly, can we agree that following the removal of the housing infrastructure funding, the 1.8 LGF awarded to the A2894 Elms Roundabout Midway Tunnel project can be retained against the project, whilst Midway Council takes steps to identify and secure alternative funding sources to enable delivery of the project. Noting, as we just discussed, that a further update on the project will be provided at the January 24 board meeting. And finally, can we note the deliverability and risk assessment as set out in Appendix D? Thank you very much. Item number 10, Helen.
Yes. I'm going to stop talking soon. So this report considers a proposed change to the Hastings and Bexhill Region and Access Package. The project is an integrated package of cycling, walking and bus infrastructure, traffic management and public travel improvements, which is aimed at supporting economic growth and planned growth across Hastings and Bexhill. It was awarded 9 million LGF funding in February 2018. Delivery of the project commenced in 2018-19 and a number of expenses have now been delivered. Updates on the project have been provided at the last 2 meetings, with the board being advised of the refusal of permission to deliver a cycle route for Alexandra Park in Hastings, and rising costs, which meant it wasn't possible for the full scope of the project to be delivered within the available budget. These factors prompted a review of the project, which is detailed in the report. This review concluded that there are 3 priority schemes which the Sussex County Council believe should be delivered using remaining LGF funding. These interventions have been identified as being affordable, deliverable, and able to offer high value. Whilst it is proposed that the project scope will be reduced, the primary areas of benefit will remain as outlined in the original business case, and will include increased levels of walking, cycling, increased bus patronage, improved bus punctuality, improvements to road safety, and reduced congestion at key junctions. It is acknowledged that the scale of benefits realised will be reduced if the proposed project change is agreed. The revised business case indicates that the total forecast project cost is 9.9 million, which will be funded through the LGM, East Sussex County Council, and development contributions. It is noted that just over £500,000 of the development contributions have not yet been formally secured to support delivery of the project, which presents some risk of funding. However, potentially available development contributions have been identified, and East Sussex County Council have indicated that any cost overruns will be met from their local transport capital programme, which provides some assurance regarding projects. It should be noted that the total project cost out of the business case includes just over 630,000 of expenditure, which has been applied to elements of the project, which will no longer become important to delivery. East Sussex County Council have undertaken a review of this expenditure and concluded that as the works relate to improvements to the existing asset network, the expenditure can continue to be capitalised under SIP guidance, therefore continues to meet the conditions attached to LGF funding. However, it is important that the accountable body are also satisfied that this expenditure can continue to be capitalised in accordance with the LGF grant conditions. Therefore, there is a need for a review of the expenditure to be undertaken by the accountable body in advance of the next board meeting. This review will establish whether the spend can be retained against the project, and will confirm if there is some compelling justification for this approach to be taken. In addition to the changes already discussed, East Sussex County Council are also seeking an extension to the project completion date to the 31st of March 2026. This extension request is supported by an indicative delivery programme and reflects the fact that the project was placed on hold whilst the review was undertaken for the revised business case development. A number of risks have been identified and outlined in the report. Potentially the greatest risk is the potential for costs to be higher than forecast once the prioritised interventions have been subject to further development. This would likely prompt the need for another review of the project scope. It's highly likely this risk will not be realised prior to the closure of SELEP in March 24, and therefore it's important that alternative mechanism for overseeing delivery and the effective management of any subsequent changes to the project is established. The independent technical evaluator has undertaken a review of the revised business case submitted by Sussex County Council. In summary, the IT is satisfied with the strategic fit of the project and the ongoing need of proposed interventions. The IT concluded that the economic appraisal has been carried out appropriately and in a robust manner. The IT indicated that there were a number of moderate uncertainties remaining in the business case, and therefore concluded that the project offers high value for money with a medium certainty of achieving this. It is recommended that the board agree that East Sussex County Council can implement the proposed project change, that the project completion date can be extended to March 2026. The proposed revised scope of the project remains in line with that set out in the original business case, with the same types of project benefits expected to be realised. The strategic case for the project remains strong, with a focus on achieving modal shift away from the path to more sustainable.
Thank you. Any questions, Councillor?
Just to add to that, things change, things are not as we always plan them, but just to note there's a significant portion of the project happening with over 5 million of the 9 million LGF spent. And the list of the project delivered outlined in the report. A lot of work and stakeholder engagement that's gone on and into the delivering of the revised space, and the county council is confident those amendments are the best use. And I guess the point was made about the risk sits also will be equally important.
So we've got three things to agree to recommendations. We firstly agree that the proposed change of scope for the Hastings and Bexhill movement and access package can be implemented, noting that the technical evaluator has assessed the project as offering high value with a medium certainty of achieving this. Secondly, can we agree the updated completion date of March 2026 for the Hastings and Bexhill movement and access package? And finally, can we agree that a review will be undertaken to determine if there is a compelling case for East Sussex County Council to retain LGF of up to 630,000 against the project to inform a decision at the November board meeting? Thank you. Thanks very much. Item number 11. I think Richard, Rebecca, you're online and you're going to be introducing the site.
Hello.
Hi, thank you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Absolutely clear, thank you.
Good, okay. Thank you. So good morning. Yes, I'm standing in for my colleague Richard Dawson to provide you with the Queensway Gateway Road project update on behalf of East Sussex County Council. I intend to cover the latest position on the project, the steps that are currently being undertaken, along with timelines currently being worked towards. As with previous updates, I'll take it that the context and background to the project to date, which is detailed in section 3 of the report, as well as the benefits realisation section, has been read. So turning to the update on progress within this report, it is firstly important to state that East Sussex County Council recognises the concerns SELEP and the board have in ensuring that the final section of the road is delivered to enable the realisation of the benefits as set out within the project business case. I am therefore pleased to be able to report this morning that since the last board meeting in June, constructive discussions have now taken place between the County Council and Sea Change Sussex. Both parties remain committed to seeing the construction of this final connection to the A21 and are working over the coming period to determine the extent of the additional funding package, delivery programme and the legal agreements that will be required to support project delivery. As stated within 5.1 of the report, whilst additional funding will be required, it is anticipated that the project will be delivered within the amount estimated in the original 2015 business case. This commitment represents a positive step forward, one that East Sussex County Council is further strengthening through the engagement of external consultants to help facilitate discussions between the County Council and Sea Change Sussex and identify the steps and processes required to complete the project. An associated action plan is expected to be produced by the consultants towards the end of October, early November for review by both parties. Looking at some of the details of the scheme and as stated in section 4 of the report, in relation to the required section 278 agreements, much of the information has already been received by Sussex County Council, reviewed and given technical approval, but there are outstanding matters, including the completion of signage package being provided and final design amendments being progressed by Sea Change Sussex. And as set out in section 9 of the report, as there remain outstanding formal approvals from both National Highways and East Sussex County Council to allow the completion of the section 278 agreements for the works, completion will be contingent on the timely progression by all parties concerned, and there being a general agreement to clauses contained within the draft agreement, which remain the subject of ongoing discussions. With reference to the steps being taken to bring forward the commercial development, since the last board meeting, East Sussex County Council's property team have prepared a draft options report, which demonstrates that the preferred option is to see the delivery of the project completed. This approach ensures all available employment land can be unlocked to open opportunities for packaging land owned by the County Council and Hastings Borough Council to attract investment. The timeline for securing these benefits is dependent upon the delivery programme for the remaining elements of the project, which, as stated, is being actively established by East Sussex County Council and Sea Change Sussex. And so finally, and turning to next steps, the board will be provided with further updates on the project at its meeting in November, and we shall continue to document and monitor all ongoing risks associated with the project. An important step has been made with the appointment of consultants to facilitate discussions between the County Council and Sea Change Sussex to develop the forthcoming action plan. The intended outcome of a jointly agreed action plan will enable East Sussex County Council to provide the necessary clarifications on the resources required to deliver the project, including provision of an indicative delivery programme at the January 2024 board meeting. Provision of this information is critical to provide both the board and members of the public with confidence that the remaining elements of the project will be delivered, and that's an outcome that is equally shared by East Sussex County Council and Sea Change Sussex. Thank you.
Councillor Glazier.
A little to add, apart from to reiterate that there has been a step forward with the conversations that we had directly with Sea Change Sussex, more importantly with the appointment of an intermediary to deal with the technicals. And as far as our property team are concerned, quite clearly the benefits that or the value of the land would be much improved when this link is in. Because currently you could access the land, we could plant it now, but it's access from one end. Once the link goes through, give direct access to the A21. So we are minded not to push marketing into such thing. But the work's been done, the button's ready to go, and we have the final link.
Good, thank you. Any questions or comments from our members? Okay.
I've written. So this report and the verbal update provided by Rebecca paints a more positive picture in relation to the relationship between East Sussex County Council and Sea Change Sussex compared to that presented at the last board meeting. However, it's still not been possible for East Sussex County Council to provide a comprehensive update on the project, which is required to provide assurance regarding delivery of the remaining elements of the project. It is obviously hope that the work outlined by Rebecca will allow more comprehensive updates to be presented at future board meetings. It's clear from the report that there are still areas where agreement needs to be reached before construction projects can recommence. At this stage, East Sussex County Council have been unable to provide a timeline for resolution of these issues. But as outlined by Rebecca, it's hoped that the work of the consultant will help to shape this timeline. A key area of concern is the ongoing need for agreement to be reached on the funding package. It is understood that agreement needs to be reached on this before the remaining works can commence on site. Therefore, it's important that this is resolved in a timely manner, so it's not to delay delivery. Obviously, it was noted at last board meeting that we were bringing forward options for progressing the project at this meeting. However, following further discussions with East Sussex County Council, it was noted that positive steps have been taken to resolve the areas of contention with Sea Change Sussex. Positive engagement between the parties obviously appears to reduce the risk associated with the delivery of the project. Obviously that can continue to be monitored over the coming meetings. Given the more positive position, alternative options are not set out in the report. However, it is recommended that a clear delivery plan, including the indicative delivery programme, total project cost and funding package, should be presented to the board in January 2024. If this information is not presented, options will be brought forward for board consideration, including the potential for the funding to be removed from the project. It is important, as I've mentioned previously, that a definitive decision on the ongoing status of the LJ funding is taken prior to March 24.
Okay, thanks. Is there anything else to add? Anybody? We've got 4 recommendations here. Can we note the latest updated position on the delivery of the project?
Okay.
Thank you. Can we note that East Sussex County Council is working with its delivery partner to ascertain the extent to which further resources are required to complete the project? Thank you. Thirdly, can we agree that a clear delivery plan, including an indicative delivery programme, total project cost and funding package, should be provided at the January board meeting?
We agree.
And do we also agree that the board will be provided a further update on the project at the November meeting? Excellent, thank you. Our next item, I think we've got Kevin first and then Howard introducing this item. Item number 12, the A13. Kevin.
Good morning, Chairman. Can you hear me?
Yes, nice and clear, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Item before the panel is the board, sorry, is an update on the A13 widening, covering 2 recommendations about lessons learned and a follow-up recommendation about value for money. Just in terms of actually the project is complete and has been handed over to the local authority, the highway authority, except for some minor remediation works and some compensation payments which relate to the original CPO works. In terms of actually finance, the project outturn is at total cost is 147 million, which is significantly higher than the original business case that was submitted. Set out in the report, in the highlights of the report about lessons learned and a fuller assessment of the lessons learned contained in Appendix 2. In relation to the outturn costs, there is a second recommendation is to undertake a further value for money assessment of the final costs of the scheme against some wider benefits relating to Lower Thames Crossing. In terms of actually the lessons learned, they're documented in the report. It is noted that this scheme was delivered through COVID, and it did suffer from some preliminary assessments in terms of actually lack of detail and some push factors in terms of timing triggers, and those are set out in the report. Ultimately, it is right to focus on some of the positives of the scheme. The scheme is up and running, and it now adds a valuable infrastructure, which unlocks growth to the port areas. And I would draw attention to section 6.9 by ACOM, the assessment based against similar schemes in the area. Costs associated with this scheme do compare favourably with those of other schemes, and that will be assessed as part of the revised value for money proposal.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Howard, do you want to add to comments now?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and morning all, and thank you to Kevin for his update. Yes, it's welcome news indeed that the delivery of the project is now predominantly complete, with only, as Kevin said, only the processing of compensation claims and completion of remediation works currently outstanding. As outlined in the report and by Kevin just said, the forecast total project cost is 147.453 million, which is an increase on the figures previously reported to the board. Now, the value for money assessment, there was one undertaken in January 2021 based on forecast project cost of 145 million. This demonstrated a BCR of 1.7 to 1, which meant that the project did not meet the requirements of the SELEP assurance framework, which requires a BCR of at least 2 to 1. An additional scenario, which was also factored in the impacts of the Lower Thames crossing, was provided, and this demonstrated a BCR of 2.5 to 1, which falls within the high value for money category. As project costs have increased further, a refreshed value for money assessment, Kevin mentioned, will need to be carried out. It is intended that this will be presented to the board at the November 2023 meeting. Again, as referenced by Kevin, the report also sets out the findings of the lessons learned review undertaken by Thorough Council. The completion of such reviews is welcomed by SELEP, and as they can provide valuable insights which can be applied to future delivery of projects by all local partner authorities. And the lessons learned report does feature as an appendix to this report, so it's worth having a look through. Thank you, Chair. That's all from me.
Thanks, Howard. Any comments or questions from anybody? Councillor Jeffrey, do you have anything you want to add?
What a comment more than anything. I think it's a lesson for everybody. Make sure you can actually deliver a project before you start it, quite frankly. And it's a shocking environment of when local goes wrong, quite frankly. And I think, like I say, everyone should learn a lesson. Make sure you can actually deliver a project before you start it.
Any other questions or comments? There's a lot, yeah.
Just so we will be getting the revised BCR, I think you say in November, is that right? And as we understand it, just to be clear, a couple of things is mentioned. So that revised BCR, of course, will then take account of the increase in costs. But equally, there were some quite positive accounts of aspects of what would be delivered, though I think that was on a comparative basis to others, was it? So I was trying to understand whether there are other things that might mitigate what would otherwise seem to be, given that we had a BCR that was, by one measure, depending on how you count it, you can count it Lower Thames crossing or not, down below the right level, whether that whether there are things that mitigate what's otherwise simply an increase in costs.
Yes. That is something that we looked at. I believe Kevin is looking at the value for money assessment at the moment, and is looking at alongside the value for money if there are wider benefits that can be considered.
That's my point. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
just very quickly, it's very honest documents. Of course, featuring any major highways or infrastructure project, great plans or changes when you put statement in many cases. But it does seem to be a lot of pre-work wasn't done, if I'm reading this correctly. And that is a lesson to always make sure that it's done. Very honest, make sure that we are doing work in advance, and for the SELEP board and this board to ask specific questions. What's left?
Thank you. Good point. Thank you. There's nothing else. We've got 2 recommendations. Can we note the update on the project, including the lessons learned?
Noted.
And secondly, can we note that an update including an updated value for money assessment report to the November board? Thank you. Item number 13 Kevin, you're starting this again.
Yes, thank you. Again, and this is a regular update on the Stanford La Hope project. Following on from the last report, good progress has been made in progressing the phase 2 interchange design, and that has been prepared for submission to planning by October, and that is still on course. In terms of actually the accompanying business case, that is been prepared as well, and it's been prepared and is on timetable to meet the requirements to come back to the Senate board for consideration in February. Number of points to point out in terms of actually the scheme. The scheme costs currently forecast 29 million. It is considered in terms of actually what's remaining in the budget for this project is 15.6 million. That's going to be a challenge to deliver both elements as they are proposed at the moment. As part of the business case review, officers are looking at alternative funding options, and those will be considered as part of that review. We are looking towards funding options both within the Thames Freeport allocations, and there's a discussion that needs to be had with set up in terms of potentially about local growth fund reallocations as well within the programme.
Thank you, Kevin. Leslie, going to follow Kevin.
Hi there, thank you. Morning, everybody. The board has obviously received regular updates on this project, which have highlighted some of the challenges that have been faced. In November 2021, the need for the updated business case was reported to the board due to the significant cost increases and concerns regarding the ongoing ability of the project to offer high value for money. While several deadlines have been set for consideration of the revised business case, as Kevin's just alluded to there, it was agreed at the last meeting that this could be submitted for consideration at the February 2024 board meeting, but with a note that if this deadline is not met, the LGF funding will be removed from the project. Although the report indicates that good progress has been made to develop the revised business case, there are still significant concerns remaining which will need to be addressed prior to submission if it is to be sufficiently robust and able to offer the board the required assurances in regard to project delivery. These concerns include ongoing uncertainty regarding the total project cost, the affordability of the project, and whether additional funding could be secured if this is required. Given the history of the project, there are also concerns regarding the procurement of a construction contractor. A very ambitious procurement timeline has been set out in the report, but we do have concern that if this timeline cannot be met, the existing planning consent for the station will expire, which will result in a further delay of the project while a new planning application is prepared, submitted, and determined. Finally, there's a suggestion within the report that total forecast project costs have increased, meaning that the project is no longer affordable within the current budget. Not only does this raise concerns as to how the additional funding required could be secured, but also as to whether the project will continue to offer the high value for money. Therefore, it's imperative that the identified risks are mitigated at the earliest opportunity, allowing a robust business case to be brought forward for board consideration. Further update on delivery of the project will be brought to the November 2023 board meeting, which will include an update on the status of the revised business case. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Questions?
Really just to reassure the board again, this goes to the informal cabinet, goes to cabinet. So my aim is to get the reports and the necessary assurances back to this board for November 2023.
I just want to, so that's reassuring to hear. I just want to make sure there's capacity within the team to make sure this happens, because there's a lot of what ifs here at the moment. All I'm hearing, I know, but at least what we know, rather than nodding through, but there's capacity within the team to get some of these what ifs covered. Be my question, well, probably not, maybe, but Andrew maybe the sense that was.
Kevin, do you want to answer that question?
Yes. Just in terms of capacity, we've got the ACOM are actually preparing the planning application, and we're confident that we will be submitted. Amy are actually doing the business case. We have a draft business case at the moment, which we're currently reviewing. So we have the costs, we have the scheme, and we're doing the assessments of those. So we're confident that we can meet the deadlines that are set out in the report. Obviously, there are issues, and there's no point. There is a concern about future funding, and those are the issues that we're now tackling and having the appropriate conversations in the right areas.
Kevin, thanks for that clarity.
That's fine.
It's much appreciated. Any other questions or comments from me? Okay, so we have 2 recommendations. Can we note the update on the project delivery set out within this report? And secondly, can we note that a further update on delivery of the project and the status of the required business case will be brought to the November board meeting? Thank you. Okay, item number 14. Gary, you are going to start the clock.
Hello everyone, Gary McDonald from Essex County Council, here for the regular update on Beauty Park Station. I am pleased to report that this is a positive update, a very positive update indeed. Since we last reported at the Accountability Board, there's been a lot of positive movement on the project. We are in a position now where all contracts have been signed, so ECC have entered into an implementation agreement contract with Network Rail, and Network Rail in turn have contracted with J Murphy and Sons Limited to build out the station. As the report makes clear, the construction contracts were split into 2 parts for reasons to do with network change and concerns that were raised late last year from one of the freight companies, but they have all been resolved. And I'm pleased to report that all contracts, as I say, have been signed and to take the project through to completion. Within the report, we set out the sort of the high level program in terms of opening the station. It is still planned to be open in 2025, and the costs there are also confirmed as well. The other major risk item that was coming forward and that we discussed at previous accountability boards was around the linkage of the project through the Homes England Housing Infrastructure Fund agreement with the Chelmsford North East Bypass. Again, very pleased to report that we have agreed a way forward with Homes England to deliver the Chelmsford North East Bypass in phases, as a phased approach. This gives all parties the ability to revise the necessary contracts. We've got a way of going forward to deliver these key pieces of infrastructure, which is driving housing growth within Chelmsford. So as I say, really good progress has been made. I was on site myself earlier this week, and I can report that the project is progressing really, really well. Certainly on, if not ahead of program slightly. The key activity at the moment is all the preparation work to hit the major track interventions which will take place over the forthcoming Christmas New Year period. There will be a lot of work planned. There will be disruption on the railway, on the Great Eastern Main Line. That's unfortunate, but obviously Network Rail are using that closure to do a lot of different works across the line. But yeah, we've got a lot of work planned, so there's preparation work for that at the moment, and then yeah, we've got that key dates to hit. So yeah, all in all, very positive movement on the project, and yeah, we're all pleased with how it is currently progressing.
Thanks for that, Gary. Leslie, do you want to follow on from there?
Yes, thank you. As outlined by Gary, progress towards mitigating key risks has been made since the last board meetings. That's been very positive. The primary concern from the seller perspective was the risk to the HIF allocation due to the nature agreement in place with Homes England that Gary's just explained. whilst the way forward has been identified and agreed in principle with Homes England, the risk of the HIF funding does remain until the deed of variation has been completed by all parties. During the negotiations with Essex County Council, Homes England have stated that no further extensions beyond the current timescales will be granted. This means that if the timelines set out by Homes England are not met, the funding will be at risk and alternative funding sources would be required. In the event that the HIF funding was returned and no alternative funding was secured, it may be necessary to consider removing the project from the LTF programme, as it will no longer be possible for the project to be delivered in accordance with the agreed business case. As highlighted in the report, several factors have increased the cost of the project by an additional £15.9 million. Additional funding has been identified from the HIF, subject to completion of the deed of variation, and Essex County Council to bridge the resultant funding gap. However, the risk of further cost escalation does remain significant, so close monitoring and reporting will be required to ensure that the project remains affordable. These risks should continue to be monitored, and a further update will be presented at the November 2023 board meeting. That's it from me.
Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you. Yes, what I'm tempted to say, of course, the only way is Essex. Actually, I'm just thinking, when I was doing Simon's job over there many years ago, I wrote a story in BBC Essex called about a desire to build a new station called the Springfield Halt. And here we are 30 years later, it's called Beauty Park Station, which is fantastic. So it's kind of completing a circle, really. Like starting one end and completing at the other. On a more serious note, I just want to pay tribute really to all the officer team at Essex who worked right across the piece. Gary and many other people, including our executive director, speaking to Homes England. This wasn't the easiest project to get over the line, but it's a pivotal project for the county, actually with the South East of England. If those who know this part of Essex well, it is a major junction, whether you come from the east, or you're going to the north, or you're traveling to the south or the west. That part of the junction is a pivotal point, and a lot of work is going on. The A12 widening will come. We're doing current work on the northeast bypass, which Gary referenced, and of course this work which is underway as well. It's a game changer, especially for housing growth that is already there, that will come as well. And just to complete that, I've written to the senior people at Network Rail to say that we're delighted we're here, but we will not tolerate any escalation of costs.
Thank you, Councillor Benjamin. Any other comments or questions from anyone? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So we have two recommendations on this particular report. Can we firstly note the update on
Good morning. Hopefully you can hear me. It's just been muted for my screen. There's no sound coming through. It's on Helen's screen. I can't hear you.
Yeah, we've all lost sound, I think.
Ah, there we go. It's back again. Oh, it's gone again.
No, I think
I can hear you.
Yeah, I think we can probably, from us attending by Zoom, can probably hear, but I think the room, I don't know if the room can hear us. Hello.
No, I don't know they can.
There we go. We're back.
Okay.
Yes, good. Hopefully you can see and hear me okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you, Chair. Yes, good morning. Lee Birchall, I'm the Major Capital Programme Manager for KCC. I'd like to introduce the paper for this item 15, which provides a further update and recommendations in relation to our Surrey Link Road scheme, which the board will be aware of, given numerous updates at recent meetings. So I guess the key take-home items are that in relation to the land and contract awards. So firstly, with the land, whilst we're continuing with land negotiations that we hope will be successful for this scheme, KCC are also progressing a compulsory purchase order under the Highways Act to give us land and programme certainty for the delivery of the scheme. Since the last meeting, positive news is that we've received delegated authority, which was approved by the KCC cabinet member to proceed with the CPO, and this is now expected to be published at the end of October this year, 2023, to allow greater confidence in the delivery of the scheme. In regards to the contract for the main works, following an intent to award notice, contracts have also been agreed with the contractor for the design and build phase for the project, and they're in the process of being signed. The preferred contractor are currently completing some early works for us on site, including some ground investigation in advance of the main contract being signed. So although the signing has not happened in time for this meeting, which we were hopefully going to announce, we're confident it will happen very shortly and before the next meeting, certainly. So as with other projects, we'll therefore bring a further paper to the next board meeting in November, which will provide a full update on the status of this project. So that's it from me. Happy to take some questions, Chair.
Thanks, Lee. Leslie, would you like to update first, and then we can take any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for that, Lee. So from a seller perspective, there is concern that there's been limited progress since the last board meeting, and that a number of key risks do remain outstanding. The board have previously agreed that the required land acquisition should be completed by the 7th of April 2025, and the report indicates that there's been a further delay to the publication of the CPO, which increases the risk of the agreed deadline not being met. In addition, there is a slight risk that the Secretary of State will not approve said CPO, which would mean that the project will be unable to come forward to delivery. A further delay to the determination of the North Hurslem planning application is detailed in the report. While it is acknowledged that determination of the planning application is not on the critical path, any significant delays will place greater pressure on Kent County Council's finances, as they will be required to forward fund the S106 contributions with the development. This would potentially present a risk to timely project delivery. Delays to key milestones remain a concern. However, it has been confirmed that at the current time, the project remains on track to complete delivery by December 2026. This will continue to be monitored until the dissolution of LEP in March 2024. It is important that following LEP's dissolution, alternative arrangements for monitoring project delivery are put in place. Further update on the project will be provided at the November 2023 board meeting and will include an update on negotiations between the developer and landowner on the Story site, status of the North Hurslem planning application, and confirmation that the CPO has indeed now been published. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Leslie. Thank you, Lee. Have any questions or comments?
I think I've said enough about this particular project in previous meeting.
Okay, if there's nothing else then, so we've got two recommendations. The first one is very lengthy. Can we firstly note the update on the project, specifically the conclusion of the negotiations between the developer and landowner on the Story site has been delayed, that the design and build contract is due to be signed in September, that the delay to the publication of the CPO, which is now expected by the end of October, and that the update on the status of the planning application for the North Hurslem development, the revised date for determination of the planning application. We have to note those. Thank you. And secondly, can we note that a further update will be brought to the November board meeting, which will provide a full update on the status of the project. Thank you. Okay, I think that concludes our key agenda items. So, as we've already said, we have a number of important decisions to make in the meetings that are ahead of us. So our next meeting is planned to be the 17th of November. You still have a venue to confirm for the 17th of November. Kerry?
Sorry, the next meeting is in November. Have we got a venue? We do. We are in May, so I confirmed we're actually at college sign.
Okay.
I did try to update the calendar, but it had this in mind, but I will update that and you will be at your Maidstone campus on this
We'll send those details up. Is there any urgent business from anybody around the table? I'm looking around for maybe around. Okay, thank you very much for everybody's time and attendance today. That formally concludes today's meeting. Everybody, we're going to stop recording. Thank you very much.